Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of season 2, Peas in a Podcast.
Woo!
It's really crazy. I can't believe we're already at season 2, episode 6.
And I'm still the co-host.
That means it's our 13th episode, which is absolutely wild. And I'm super duper excited for this episode because, first of all, every episode this season was awesome. Like, every guest was amazing.
Who do you think the co-host is?
Okay, we have Mimit here to my right. She is the co-host. She is back. And we have an amazing, amazing episode for you guys. When I actually put out the topic of this episode into Instagram, I got so many responses so quickly because I think it's such an I always try to find topics that pertain to me because that's the best way for me to talk about something I'm struggling with, something I'm going through, something I think about a lot. And this topic is so particular to my stage of life right now, but I guess a lot of people feel the same way I do, is that as a parent, the parent-educator relationship is not difficult, it's just confusing. You know, we're raised our whole lives and we're students, and then all of a sudden one day you become a parent and, you know, we're focusing on breastfeeding or formula, we're focusing on getting kids sleeping through the night, we're focusing on clothing sizes, we're focusing on, you know, speaking nicely, we're focusing on speaking positively with a little bit of negative or no negative, we're focusing on everything that, you know, the one thing nobody teaches us is how to educate your children, and then we send them into the school system and we're blind, and these educators have so much experience and we have no experience, and I feel like I'm always at the mercy of my lack of knowledge here. And so I brought on a real giant expert in the field. I would venture to say she has probably more expertise on the subject than anybody else I could have brought in.
Absolutely.
We have with us the most amazing, fabulous, also stylish, by the way.
Yes.
Super
very
awesome.
Pretty.
Barbara Deitch, woo! Who we actually in my house call Grandma. She is my children's adopted grandma when Mim is not there.
And I'm her children's adopted
Mimit. Yeah.
That's right.
They're partners in crime. Her daughter actually is, don't worry, I won't tag you. I don't know why we still call her that. They know who she is now. But anyway, we love Grandma very, very much. And she also happens to be extremely brilliant and very, very experienced in her field. So, Barbara, take it away. Tell them who you are, what you do, all that. Just jump right in.
That's quite an awesome introduction.
Why, thank you.
I have to begin by saying that any love that is directed our way from the Grenovs and Gleitmans is right back at them. As many questions I'm asked is about what it feels like to have children living in Israel, and that's for another topic. But it gives me great menucha to know, that
Your
Rachel, my daughter, I can't say her name.
They know, it's fine.
Rachel and Danielle
have each other, and it's really one special family. And I was introduced to Instagram by spying my granddaughters on peaslovencarrots and seeing their beautiful faces integrated, especially the boys, always together, always doing fun things. I don't know that I wear the title expert so easily. I just have a lot of experience, and I've been doing it a really long time. And things have changed so much in the time that I have been involved in education. And
can you tell us where you were?
Okay.
What your education?
So I started off as a Beis Yaakov girl.
What? You went to Beis Yaakov?
Yes.
I had no idea.
In Brooklyn?
Wow.
In Brooklyn and Williamsburg. Actually, it's a really good story. My parents are Holocaust survivors. I was born in a DP camp in Germany. And when my parents came to America with Hayas, they were put in Williamsburg. And we lived in a building in Williamsburg with other refugee families. And downstairs from us was a family whose children were put in yeshiva because their father worked in South America for money, which was very common. And the daughter, her name was Kathy, was not willing to go to school if I didn't go with her best friends. And my parents could ill afford that because there just was no money for girls for yeshiva. So I went with her. She dropped out after a year, and my mother was loath to take me out. So I continued, and I went through the whole Beis Yaakov system through Esther Schoenfeld, a wonderful, wonderful school, and Hunter College, education, and the rest is history. I wanted to be a lawyer. My mother said no. Girls need to be housewives and mothers first, and
No
to
way.
be a teacher is the only way that you'll have both. It is a decision that I never regretted because, as I say to all my colleagues and teachers and principals that I've taught with and mentored, it was the best decision of my life since I go to school happy every single day.
Oh, for
And
sure.
every day is full of joy. And the schutz of working with children is a gift.
Wow. It really is. To be able to do what you love every day is a privilege. And
So
it should be appreciated.
So where are you now?
now I'm at Hank. After a long career at the Yeshiva of Flatbush, where I was a teacher and a dean of students. I loved Flatbush. I still love Flatbush. It gives me great joy to see some of my former students anywhere and everywhere. Shout out to them. And
Shout out to Flatbush. Woo!
And then I was the founding principal of the Joseph Kushner Hebrew Academy Middle School. I loved my experience there, and shout out to them. It was fabulous.
Woo!
And now, for the past 10 years, I can't believe it even, I've been at Hank in West Hempstead. That has also been a uniquely wonderful experience
Growing.
working with fabulous colleagues and a wonderful administrative staff.
A much better commute.
And a much shorter commute. Actually, funny.
Yeah.
You should say that, Danielle.
A growing
Because
yeshiva
right when
environment, a growing
right when I worked at,
community,
at
yes.
Kushner, which was like my first job as a principal,
You're the principal at Hank.
associate principal. at
Associate
Hank.
principal at Hank.
But there I was the principal. They the only thing that I ever heard from anybody when I got this really great job, it was a great job, was, and you do the commute? Having lived in Cedarhurst and driving to Livingston, New Jersey, almost 2 hours both ways. It was crazy, but it was worth it. It was wonderful. Wonderful. It really was.
It is a lot, though, the drive. I drive, like, this past week for the cookbook to the city every day. I have to be there at 8 in the morning, and I have to leave my house at, like, 6:15, 6:30. I need to be up at 5 in the morning, and it's just exhausting. And then you have to be on.
Yep.
It's a lot. Wow.
But you know what? If you love what you do,
Exactly. It's worth it.
it was worth it. And I am still close to many of my colleagues that I work with, and even many of the parents. We still email and talk to each other. And I think, one of the most wonderful distinctions that I can say about my career is that I never closed the door behind me, and I'm still just as happy to see the people from every school I ever worked.
That is
Aw.
amazing.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, so I want to ask you just right ahead, what do you think about this topic, like this take on education, the parent-teacher relationship? Is there even such a thing as that? Should that exist? Is there something to even discuss here?
So I believe that this is an amazing topic and a right-on topic, and that you do have the pulse of what's necessary. I think that there are a couple of challenges today in the parent-teacher relationship, in that the communication between the school and the parent and the home has to be fluid. And oftentimes, especially with social media, the fluidity gets a little bit choppy. And I think that the most important thing that a parent has to have about the child's school is trust. If you don't find a school where you trust the people that run it, you don't trust the people that are educating your children, then there will be glitches in the relationship.
You literally just pinpointed my personal number one issue, which I haven't even gone through all the questions because we do them on the spot. My number one issue is I literally, I have a very hard time because, of the media and exposure and things like that. I have a very hard time trusting anybody, institutional when it comes to my kids.
Why?
These days. I don't know, because I don't know who they are. I don't know who the teacher is. I don't know where he came from. I don't know where she came from. I don't know what her home looks like. I don't know who she is. I don't know who her family
loves her
is.
job. Does she love the job?
Does she love her
he
job?
love the job?
Is she doing it just for, because she's been doing it forever?
Or for
is she a
Parnassus.
predator? Is she not a predator? Who is I don't know. I don't know who to trust. And so like I send my kids to school every day and all I can do is daven that they are trustworthy. But like, so right away, my trust level is like very shaky. And then I'm put in a situation where like, let's say where I just don't know what to do. I really like oftentimes I feel like I just don't know what to do. Does the teacher think I'm annoying? Is it annoying if I ask questions? Should I not ask questions because then it shows that the teacher, that I trust them? But if I do ask questions, does it look like I'm second guessing? Do they want me to be involved? Do they not? Nobody's ever spoke about it. I don't know where I haven't heard anybody speak about what does the teacher even want from me? What is my role here? Like besides for, going home. Okay, I think we should just jump right into questions because there were really good questions. And I just want to say for the record, this is not an indictment on the education system, which like I think the education system, every single person individually would be like, I would change this, I would change this, I would change this, I would change this. I'm sure you would change something, Barbara, Mom, you would change something. Right. Everybody, it's easy to say, how to fix the problem you're having. But overall, that's not what we're here to do today. We're not changing the education system today. We are focusing on this one specific issue of how parents and educators can correspond in a better way to produce a better outcome for our children. Okay? I just want to state that.
While you look for that, I'll tell you, my brother and his wife were in education their whole lives. And his wife was a principal in a yeshiva and a bunch of schools. And I remember when my kids were little, my brother always said to me, be very careful with the first, second, and third grade teachers because they make or break the child. If sometimes a teacher just doesn't connect with a kid, and that can result in a bad situation for the child. But then a rabbi...
Maggie, say hi to everybody on the podcast.
Say hi. My twin.
She's being shy. Okay.
But a very big rabbi, when my kids were very little, had said to me, we're not allowed to be selfish in any way. We cannot be selfish in life. There's only one place where a parent can be selfish, and that's when it comes to their children's education. Each child is built differently, and not one school has to be very good for all the kids. So you can be selfish and do what's right for your child.
I'm going to jump in here for a minute. I think that parents today, different from when I was raising my children, who, Baruch Hashem, had excellent education at the Yeshiva Flatbush, I cannot be more satisfied with what was given to them in terms of foundation on all levels, and especially their love of Israel, with Rachel living in Israel and Meredith and Dove, and their families, all smechot, everything in Israel. And of course, that is our ultimate goal also. So, but I will say that things have changed, whereas usually in the past, parents sent their kids to one school and everybody went to the same school. And as you just said, Nicole, one size does not fit all. You have to find the right fit for your child. Some kids do well in a larger school. Some kids do better in a smaller environment. Some kids need more hand-holding. And then there are so many more complicated things today. For some reason, we see more learning disabilities, learning issues. It's interesting. I go to a lot of workshops and ongoing educational opportunities. And it used to be that everything was about how do you teach Chumash? How do you teach language arts? Today, it's all about social emotional growth. I would say 75% of the workshops center on that, because a healthy child, both physically and emotionally, is the child that will learn best.
Right.
And we cannot take for granted that every child comes from an intact home.
Right. Okay. So let's just jump right into the question. So I would say there was the majority of the questions were related to homework. So I would say, like, what I'm seeing a lot of is that parents want to understand why there is a need for homework, period, why the level of homework they feel has risen in recent years, and is there a place for parents to speak to a school or a teacher and say, a lot of what people were saying was that their child was coming home unprepared to do the homework that was given. and they felt that they were having to actually facilitate the homework as a teacher, not just as a parent, not just, saying, okay, well, here's the answer, look here, helping here and there, but actually the child was unprepared to do the homework that they were meant to do, and it was taking longer, and it's causing issues at home. So I guess we need to address all of those questions. But my question to you is it really fair for the parent to say, well, sorry, you're the teacher, I don't have a role in this at all, I don't want to be doing homework? Or
that's what I said.
And at the same level, is it fair for the teacher to say, well, you need to be doing this also? Like, where is the balance here?
Good question. Very good question. The question we get a lot. It's really funny. I used to be that. I have to laugh about it because in the summertime, parents used to say, "Oh, the kid's going to be home. What am I going to do with them?" Now, any parent I meet said, "Are you kidding? I love the summer. No homework."
Right.
That's the number one thing I get. So. This is a communication issue more than anything else. I'm very old school. I believe in homework.
One second. You keep saying you're old school, but we just need to put it out there that you are very, very current, and what's going on with the times, and that's the reason specifically you're here today, is because you really have your pulse on our generation, and you know what's happening. Like there's a lot of educators that maybe have the experience you have because of the amounts of years they put in that really don't know what's flying today. But you really do.
So I say I type with my thumb, so that makes me very current. And I have Instagram accounts, and I do have a social media presence. But by old school, I mean, I think there needs to be a follow-up to the day's activity, but it is not new learning. Children should not be learning new things when they get home, and that takes the onus off parents immediately. At Hank, we have a policy which I think is amazing, and we really, really stick to it through Parent Locker, which is an app. Well, it's a homework communication device between parents and the school, and we do
different.
Parents log on to there. Everybody has a way to communicate directly with the teacher. Every single child is told, and parent is told, that if this takes you more than 10 minutes, stop, and the teacher will take care of it tomorrow. You do not have to finish your homework. Nothing will happen. If you come home and you cannot do it, and you've tried, that's all we ask is that try. 90% of the time, the student goes home with very little homework, and ironically, in some classes, we get back feedback. My kid does nothing when he gets home. How come there's no homework?
Right.
A lot of times the kids do it on the bus, or whenever they do it surreptitiously under their desks.
Oh, yeah, I have one child that, she comes home, by the time she comes home, her homework's done. In between, on, over, under, whenever she can get a minute in school, she'll do it. She wants to be free when she comes home, but she does her homework, so.
But it is not, absolutely not, and I think any educator speaks with me in this voice, the parent's responsibility to do homework for their child.
So how can a parent communicate? Do you think that it exists, though, that there are situations, because parents are writing that they're coming home and their kid doesn't know anything. Is it the kid? Is it the teacher? How can a parent communicate with the school or the teacher to resolve that issue?
By communicating.
How? What is the best way for a parent to approach
I can't speak for all schools. I can speak for most schools. Most schools have a vehicle which teacher on opening school night. We all have these meet the teacher nights where the teacher tells the parent, this is the best way to contact me. I can tell you.
So step one is go to the teacher. Don't go to the principal.
Never.
You don't want to tell on the teacher.
It's not telling on the teacher. It's communicating with the teacher, and it's about trusting the teacher. Now, if a parent really feels, because of an experience they've had, that the teacher is not communicating back to them, let's say they try, and you do not want the teacher to answer you in school time because you don't want them on their phone or on their computer when they should be teaching your children.
It's called in the evening hours.
It could be the parent leaves a message, what's the best time to reach me? Please let me know. This is the way you can reach me best. Telephone, text, email, whatever works best for that parent. We, as administrators at Hank, have shared with our teachers, please try to get back to the parent within 2 hours after they get home, or as close to that as possible. We have to understand teachers are parents too.
Yeah, they're people.
So as long as everybody respects that time limitation, I have yet to meet a teacher, certainly in general, but certainly at Hank, who would ever punish a child for not finishing homework because
can we have a
didn't know how.
dialogue here? Can we recreate a dialogue? Let's say I'm the parent and I approach you. What are the words that I would say? Like, how would I approach the teacher in a way that's respectful but also share my concerns?
I love the word partner.
Partner?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Mrs. So-and-so. I want to discuss something with you. So first of all, my child is so happy in your class.
Why don't you give me a real thing that happened to you?
So, okay, my boys don't get homework. Boys in Israel get very, very little homework. And Leah Bela does her homework. So I haven't had, like, much of a homework issue. I do have, like, Batya, who's in school now, who really...
doesn't like homework.
She's in first grade. I don't know how academic she'll be ever. She's a lover. Like, she really likes recess.
You never know.
She does. She told me. She really, recess is her favorite. But
she's just a healthy little girl.
Right. She actually, like, in Israel, you can stay in school till 4:00, but only in first and second grade, and you pay a little bit of money for it, and it's, like, awful. Like, I would never leave my kids there. So Bai actually insisted on staying, but I think it's because she needs the time to be there and just play. Like, it's not sit down, it's not structured, they eat lunch, they run around, they play, they do a little homework if they can. But I've had other issues with teachers that will come up later in this conversation, but not really homework related, which I guess is why I'm struggling for the right words. But as a teacher, how would you like a parent to approach it?
So I would, first of all, the biggest issue that we have is organization and books. And my son or my daughter came home without the paper or the thing that they have to fill out or the notebook on what do I do. And many times you go to the lobby or, and there's a parent there who says, sends her kid up to find the book, came home and can't do the work. If a child forgot the book in school, don't come back to school and get the book. Just write a note. The child, forgot the book, or if you can get a facsimile of something, that's fine. But don't come running back and go tearing through the building looking for a book.
I have a scenario.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Batya, my first grader, we have a WhatsApp chat, but just the parents, obviously, not the teacher, because she would not have WhatsApp. But
you can get thrown out of school for that.
They don't have a yoman. They don't have a
calendar.
A calendar. A planner.
Yeah.
And they don't write down the homework. What does the teacher do? In the book that they have homework on, they make like a letter shin with a house with like a triangle on top. So shiurei bayit means homework.
Oh, cute.
So basically every day you're going through the notebooks looking for this shin with the house on it. And also, what if they accidentally didn't write it? So every day on the WhatsApp's going crazy. Ding, 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 ding. What's the homework? What's the homework? My daughter says it's this. My daughter says it's this. My daughter says it's this. They're in first grade. We don't know what the homework is every day. It's like a guessing game.
So what have you done about it?
I've done nothing because she's the best teacher in Israel. It happens to be. She's the best first grade teacher. She's amazing. And I don't want to complain to her.
And what does she do when the child does not have the homework?
I don't know. I don't know. I am very on top of I try to be very on top of things, and I don't want my child to go into school and not have their homework done. So I pay attention to the WhatsApp, and I sit with her, and I figure it out. And sometimes I think we do a little extra, but I do work very hard. I am frustrated by it.
So I think that's something that if you don't communicate it to the teacher, then it's never going to change.
So how would I say that to the teacher?
So I would call up the teacher or make a meeting. Don't you have parent-teacher conferences or something like that coming up? Or
No, I don't like to do these things. I go into parent-teacher conferences. I'm in and out in 2 minutes.
Okay.
There's people waiting online behind me. Like, why do I have to wait till there's a million people waiting for me to have it?
So it depends on what your school has as a setup for communication. I
can call her.
Okay, so I would call her and I'd say, I need you to partner with me. I have no real understanding of how to find homework for Batya.
And she's going to say, look for the shin.
Okay. And I try to do that, but when I do that, it gets all confusing and mixed up, and she's not so organized so that it's in an organized way. So don't offer
her a solution. Don't say, can we do this?
Then she can respond by saying, okay, let's play it out.
Hi, Mara, whatever. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time figuring out the homework every day, and I was wondering if we can come together and partner and find a way to help clarify the problem so that the homework can go more smoothly in my house.
What works for you?
I would like if she could write it down every day. if there was a notebook or something or a paper where she could write down what the homework is, and then when she comes home, I could just see exactly what the homework is.
Well, what I do is I put it on the board for her to see, for her to copy. She's just in first grade, so it's a little bit hard for some of the children don't write yet. So sometimes I have to go around and do it myself. Where in her notebook would it be better for you to see it so that you would automatically know it's there? But please understand that if she can't find it or there's confusion some night, there's no punishment. She can come in the next day and I'll help her do it. And I'll set aside a couple of minutes for her to get it together. She's only in first grade. It's a learning process.
So my instinct is that the conversation would not go.
Okay, let's say the conversation does not go like that.
Right. Okay, so why can't you say,
I think
is there a way?
I think the response would be, well, I put the shin in the homework. Look through the pages and you'll see the shin. That's the homework.
But it's not working for me, Maura.
Well, it's worked for the last 40 years that I've been a teacher.
But times change. Times change.
I think from what I'm feeling from you is that you're not trusting that the teacher is going to be willing to help you. And that's what goes to my initial statement.
So I first have to back it up.
Right. You have to back it up. You have to decide that you're going to trust this person and you're going to have to believe that she's going to want to help you. Let me tell you something inside the school thing. Most teachers don't want to get into it with parents.
Right. Most teachers don't want to get into it.
No.
I've had it with one of my boys where a teacher would contact us if the homework wasn't done. You know, if he came home and didn't do homework.
It depends on the homework. Right. If it's homework that's a building block, in other words, sometimes teachers don't finish and they expect the parents to help the child finish.
I don't do that.
We don't do that. And at Hank, we even encourage all projects to be done in school because we want the children themselves to do it. We don't want parent-made projects. They're usually very, very distinguishable.
Of course.
But in the past, it wasn't always that way. Today, homework, I to be perfectly honest, I don't even know why it is an issue at all because it is much more limited. And yet, maybe this isn't so PC to say, but some parents come home very, late from work.
Yeah.
They have no time at all to help their children with that kind of work. And that also has to be communicated with the parent.
Okay, so that does lead to one of the questions is, does bringing up issues about our kids or our home life to educators lead to them being seen as a problem kid? So let's say there's a parent that the father, let's take my home, for example, okay? Ellie travels every week, whatever. He's not in the country. Now, thank God I don't have a job that keeps me at work until 8 at night. But let's say I did. If my kids were coming home to a babysitter every single day, would I communicate that to the teacher? Yes?
Yes,
would would that cause the teacher to look at them differently?
No. First of all, one of the most important things, which we find time and time again, transparency. A good educator, and let's make the assumption, maybe it's not fair to make this assumption, but
would you say today that most teachers are good teachers?
I would say on the whole, most teachers are good teachers.
Okay.
And most schools want teachers to be the best. Right. We do the best we can with what we have, but at Hank, I can tell you, and I say this with all sincerity, we work really hard at mentoring our teachers and getting them.
I saw that.
Well, we mean it. Even our report cards, I slave over those report cards.
It's
let's bring the conversation to Israel because I think it's an easier topic to discuss where, let's say, our teachers are not always the best teachers. That's the reality because our schools can't afford to pay the teachers. So not the girls' schools, but let's say the boys' schools that really aren't getting money from the government, things like that. They go months without paying. Yeah. They go months without being paid. And it is hard to find Rebbes in Israel. And, a lot of the Rebbes are very, very old. Like, not old in the sense of age necessarily, but old meaning they grew up in a completely different world. Like, just can't relate to the kids at all. And some of them are incredible. And you see they have a love of children and a love of learning. And some of them you see are miserable. They're so unhappy to be there. How do you work with a teacher like that? How do you communicate with somebody that just doesn't even want to be doing the job?
Stumped.
No, I know. In America, it's probably a little different.
A lot different.
Right.
But you know what?
It is something we deal with there.
So I honestly, having the back end of a lot of the Israeli education from my own family. I hear it, and my heart shatters for when I hear it. It does, because I've spoken to my grandsons about it, and one of them especially told me this year, I'm going to start to cry. This year, I love my Rebbe, Baruch Hashem, and then there are times when they just don't, but. Everything is in, Hashem's hands. And I think that certain things build resiliency, and the kids know that they have each other, and that somehow gives them the ability to overcome some of those things. But if I were going to say what I really believe, anyone that doesn't love children should not be in education. And that goes true for everybody.
Yes.
If you don't look for the best in a child, if you don't search under anything that presents itself, at the base, a child has to feel love.
What about a child with ADHD, low spectrum Asperger's, issues like that? So somebody wrote, is that something right at the beginning of the year they should discuss with the teachers, or should they wait it out to let the teacher get a good impression of the child and then?
Okay, I'm going to say this, and this is, something that I believe.
Under the couch.
Okay.
You see a black under the couch? Okay, we're going to get it out.
This is more important than anything else that I'm going to say. And I've said it again at the beginning of this a little bit, and I'm going to say it now. It's not a treasure hunt. You have to be completely transparent with the teacher. No, you have to say, this is my child, this is what I need, this is what my child needs. The teacher, worth his or her salt, will immediately be able to say, these are the things we can do, these are the things we're going to try to do, and we're not sure we can do this. Right. I know that.
And these are the things you can do.
And then in a partnership, in a collaboration, you figure it out together. We have children at Hank for all different kinds of children. And just because somebody presents as perfect, what's perfect anyway? The truth of the matter is, if a parent is not open and transparent, there's nothing to hide. And the teacher will not share what is not wanted to be shared. And the teacher will not single out that child and say, well, you have ADHD, therefore we don't expect that from you. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen, and not under any principal's watch, under anyone's watch today, because it's just not going to happen. I can't even fathom it happening. I can fathom a teacher losing patience with a child that is continually disruptive. So a school has protocols for what to do.
What?
They don't have to sit at their desk with their hands folded the whole time. They could take a walk. They know we have signals where a teacher will put her hand on the child's desk and say, I see that you need a timeout. And there's conversations, myriads of conversations over what the child should expect and what the teacher should expect.
Let's say you're in a school situation where the school is not up to date with how to deal with a child with ADD or things like that. How can a parent approach a teacher in a system that's not necessarily, not supportive, just not educated enough to know what to do? How can a parent approach a teacher and say, I'd like to be partners with you. Here's a few tools that can help you with my child. What would be, that's how they would approach it?
First of all, no child should be in a school where the school can't handle their issues. At Hank, we don't accept anybody that we don't think we're going to be successful with. We tell the parents up front, and our team actually says, you're not for this school, but we will help you find a school.
But you don't leave them hanging.
No.
Well, when our kids were being educated, it had gotten to a point which was really bad, that if your child was a little ADD or ADHD, whatever, they wanted them medicated. And if you didn't medicate them, they didn't want them.
Well, that's the world I live in Israel. Everybody. I mean,
that's complicated.
It's different now, I guess.
Okay, it's complicated. There are parents, I'm not going to say that I have not thought that. Sometimes
a little medication would help.
Yeah. But we don't take that approach. I don't take that approach.
Sometimes it's necessary. When it's necessary,
it has to be, again, a collaboration. We look at all the things that the child needs. We encourage the parents to try alternatives to what has to happen. Not all medications work for all children. We have a list of therapists that we give the parents to work with, and we are in close contact with the therapists. The best therapists are ones that will come to the school and watch the child in action, and then together with the school and the parents see how they can help. It's not as simple, this is the answer.
That's not happening in Israel so fast.
Israel
unfortunately.
So I can't speak to what is in Israel. I can only speak to what I'd love to see happen in Israel. But for my own grandchildren, for my own adopted grandchildren.
Right.
But I think that these are decisions that go into making for a lot of parents who decide to make Aliyah and then have to come back. But then I've seen in Israel wonderful experimental programs where they have done wonders, schools that really help the kids who have a lot of issues. But the first and most important thing is a recognition by the parents to be willing to understand and accept and love their child and work with the school to help their child.
Okay, so this is a really good question. If a child is not academic in school, how do you help get a child not to hate school? Like a child that, gets 70s consistently with doing their homework. This is just where they're at academically. Or, tries for an hour and can't try for 3 hours because they're artistic or because they'd rather play ball or because they'd rather read a book or because school's just not their thing.
Focus.
But how can the parent help the child be okay with what's going on and not hate school, not feel, how can that work?
That's a very generalized question. First of all, you're giving a value judgment to the number 70. There's nothing wrong with getting 70.
No, right. So
I'm going to tell you that we don't even give number marks like that. We give 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm in favor of not even having 1, 2, 3, and 4 and having anecdotals completely, which is a description of how the child is doing and where they need support. A number, I always told parents when I was a middle school teacher that, a child holds up a report card and sees the numbers and it's like they're looking in a mirror.
Right.
I am this number and therefore I am a loser or I am a winner. That is not good. In schools today, I hope in Israel this is true also. If not, I am running to Israel tomorrow and getting my kids.
Can you get mine?
Yeah, no. If they come, they come together. Okay. Anyway, so what I will say is that in our schools today, in all of the schools that I've been affiliated with, and even in all the schools that I, interact with, they do differentiation, and they do not expect the same from a child who is spectrum-y or from a child who has a learning issue. If you get 10 problems, get 5 problems. If you can't understand the vocabulary, then we modify the words. We work it so that they do well. But then the kid, I just want to finish this. Then sometimes that child feels bad. They feel like I'm different from the other children. Right. I don't want to be pulled out of class. So we work really hard to minimize that and do the best we can and give them opportunities to shine in art, in music, in ball playing. And we do try to find that happy medium. But at some point, the child has to own who he is and not feel bad about it.
So I think that like first and second grade, more time should be spent on teaching the children organizational skills.
So actually this first grade teacher in Israel, who is one of the best first grade teachers, she does.
That
she goes through their knapsacks with them
I used to have
day.
a tutor that taught my kids organization.
Not your kids.
You're 100% right.
A couple of them.
Oh, okay.
You're very organized.
I am very
organized. Yeah, she's very organized. Well, she was,
I want to get back to that question for a minute because I actually struggle with that with one of my own children. I don't struggle with it, thank God, but I could potentially struggle with it. And Ellie was very, very smart about it early on. And Ellie just said, Danielle, we don't care. Like, because I am a perfectionist, the first day of before first grade when they started being tested, he was like, Danielle, it's fine. He will be fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he gets a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. He's going to be a good boy. He's going to have fun. When he gets a 70, we're going to clap our hands. When he gets an 80, we're going to clap our hands. And then so smart, Ellie. We came up with a really good system. Basically, we will reward the children. We don't, just first and second grade, really. Like, just to get the ball rolling, when you're studying for tests, we will reward them with a treat, which is usually an iced coffee from Greens, because that's where we live, before the test if they've studied. The morning of the test, before they go into school, if they've studied before the test, they get an iced coffee.
I used to have
because then it's not about the test at all.
It's not about the results.
It's not about the results. You put in the work. You studied. We're very proud of you. There you go. Mazel tov. Whatever you get, you get.
But you know what? Your kids are really lucky, and I'm not saying it because I love your family. I'm saying it because I've observed and the amount of time and effort you put into your children comes back with tremendous results. Not everybody has that. Not every child has that, and not every child has the ability to be so all-encompassing love that you give your children.
Thank you.
So what do you do? So sometimes if you're in the right school, and I believe this with a passion, is that you have to be that surrogate. You have to give that child the feeling that you're a winner no matter what.
So this is to the teachers now.
So our teachers, and I have to say that in my school, at Hank, the teachers truly love the children, and they truly love what they do.
But let's say you're speaking to a general there are a lot of the questions.
But you have to find a school that has that. You cannot sit back and, I call some schools warehouses.
But you don't always
there's always a choice. There's always a choice. Yes, you do. You've made your choice.
If you live in Arkansas and there's one Jewish school, you don't have a choice. That's it. You get what you get.
But then you make other choices. There are people who homeschool their children because of that. I know. I've met them.
No, we can't homeschool our children.
Sometimes it's the best solution until you figure out another solution. And I know people, especially when I lived in New Jersey. I did live there. When I worked in New Jersey, there were people who moved.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
From Brooklyn.
I'm coloring on my mother's towel, which the computer
which is going to go through the
I can't help it. If there's markers, I doodle.
Okay, don't doodle.
I doodle too.
I know. Do you really?
So I had a kid one of my kids had butterflies before test. Did very well, but had butterflies. And very often I would have to bring him a chamomile tea.
Oh, that's so cute.
And I would bring him the chamomile tea.
Oh my God, we all know who you're talking about. There's only one child you would do that for.
Oh, stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it. Stop it.
Did you see in the newspaper, too? I read the paper once a week, and now that I'm,
you have to be
designated to the
involved.
post, right. Having been killed about my time, canceling my time. No more. No. Anyway, so is that everybody does have a favorite child.
I was... No, I don't. But
okay.
I don't.
It's not me.
Each day it's different. That. I favor you for certain things. I favor Eric for certain, and Benjamin.
No,
for
Eric definitely doesn't get favored.
Benjamin's the baby.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, look at you with your baby now. You don't let her go.
She nurses, Mom. What should I do?
Wait a minute.
You're attached. Oh, come on. But. You have to be involved in your children's education.
Not everybody can.
Well, I couldn't help.
Yes, you could. You didn't have a job.
But I couldn't do the homework, and I didn't want to.
No.
I didn't want to. I just didn't.
Okay,
I went to school,
but you had a language barrier, and that was hard for you.
Right.
Also. And it was also, by the way, it was hard for us. When I was in like 3rd or 4th grade, I came home, and we were doing long division, and I'm terrible at math. I hate math so much. I will never forget this day in my life. You know what? I was traumatized, okay?
It has been told.
And my father came home late at night at like 8 p.m., and I was still at the kitchen table sitting there doing my math homework, and I was crying, and my mother was crying, and we'd been sitting there for 2 hours, 3 hours already.
We couldn't do it.
And my father walks in and he sees the paper, and then he looks at my mother's paper where she's trying to teach me, and literally he looked at her and he was like, walk away. Just walk away. Because she was doing division like the way my kids do, backwards. They do it backwards. And I didn't understand what she was saying, and she didn't understand what I was saying. She thought I lost my mind. It's like, how could I come home and think this? I thought, like, what are you saying? You lost your mind. And whatever, it was very traumatic for me. And
That's
now I hate
why
math.
it's
And I
not-
hate math, and it's your fault.
You know what? Oh, please. But you know what? This is
It's so
why.
Josh what you just did.
Yeah, right? But this is
It's
why.
so Josh.
It's because I'm funnier. He steals my material.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
But that was a very good job.
This is why parents should be there for their kids, but they don't have to do the homework.
Okay, can I just tell you my
I got
number
upset
one?
with the teacher once because she called Danielle. Danielle did a project.
Oh my
and
gosh!
it was,
In second grade, this was wild.
and it was.
I did a.
she did a
We had to do a
great
book
job.
report, and we had to do create an oak tag and like make pictures out of the book, basically. But really, what you have to know is that my mother did not help me with my homework. I was literally on my own.
Yeah.
Also, she couldn't read Hebrew, so on all my Judaic studies, I was on my own. But also, I really didn't need the help. I was fine.
No, she was fine, but. She goes to school and she comes home.
It was really good. The
She
project came out
She
amazing.
did an amazing
I worked
job.
really
She's
hard
very
on it.
talented, even then. And
And the teacher wrote, "Your
great
mother
job,
gets a 90."
Mom. Great job, Mom.
Something like that. Your
Yeah.
mother gets a 90.
Well.
I was crying. I was so upset.
I'm
You know-
talking
I know.
the
No,
next
you know why
day.
I was so upset? Because so many kids in the class, their mothers actually did do the project.
Yes. And I went in and I said, let me tell you something. One, my kid does not lie. Two, let me tell you, do I look like I'm going to help do projects? I've been there, done that. I don't want to do
Well,
it.
fine. How could she have said that better?
But she called my daughter a liar.
Well, she didn't call your
said-
daughter a liar.
Right.
She was just
Made a silly
Yes.
assumption.
she made a wrong assumption. It wasn't
made a
silly. It
wrong
was
assumption.
wrong assumption, and I would have, I would have.
stop.
I'm sorry. I'm so cold.
Okay, no, really, because if it goes on here, it's
Okay.
So I would. So this that's an interesting question. What should she have done? I don't know, because probably, I guess I do know, but I probably have to be acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of rage there.
Right.
Anybody that writes something like that about your child, that's really painful, and that's
Right.
not fair
Right.
to the process. And I'd have to wonder what she was thinking. But I would have, I think I would have gone in to see the teacher, and I would have said to the teacher something like, "My daughter worked really hard on this, and I'm not really understanding why you made this assumption." And not to put anything down about yourself. It's more about the fact that your daughter has a lot of pride. And do you know my child? She's in your class every day.
Right.
Is this something that she would be part of? And I think that, even though you were educated not such a long time ago, but things have changed dramatically.
Since
and
it
drastically.
wouldn't be. It wouldn't happen.
But that brings me to the Israel question. How much has it really changed in Israel?
Not.
So,
Not.
but and having just gone through a lot of pain for my own family, and I can say that I question what goes through people's mind when they work with children. That for us, when we look for a teacher at Hank and at all the schools that I've been affiliated with, the one thing we looked for was compassion and understanding, even more so than academic prowess.
Right.
And my own husband, Bob teaches at DRS, and he is beloved.
He's everybody's favorite teacher.
Yes.
But
he's
the
the nicest
reason,
man.
right?
He is. He's a
You
teddy
cannot
bear.
like
He's
Grandpa.
a
But
teddy
the
bear.
reason he is
Right.
beloved is because the students know that he
Right.
gets them.
Right.
And they feel that strong connection. And I think that also, if even in Israel, if a Rebbe is old and maybe past his prime, if the child feels that the Rebbe gets them, even if he is a little bit set in his ways, is a good way of putting it, I think that that's not harmful. I think that most kids just want to be loved and validated.
Right.
And most kids just look for that kind of, you understand me and you want to help me. And if you scrape away at that defiance, or you scrape away at that I'm tough and I'm Mr. Right, you'll see a child that wants to be accepted and loved.
I think the parents have to guide their children. Don't be afraid of your teacher. If you don't understand, go up to her and say, I didn't understand. Can you give me a few minutes? And the parents have to.
So this next question comes from a teacher, actually. We got a lot. It was very interesting. I wasn't expecting to get so many questions from teachers. But I think the main thing is that teachers are just as sort of like sometimes lost in the system the way the parents are. Like everybody, if you're a good parent and you're a good teacher, everybody's just trying to do the best for the child. And everybody wants to know how to navigate that system. So I shouldn't have been surprised that there were teacher questions, but there were. Anyway, so this teacher asked, let's say during parent-teacher conferences or anytime she's talking to her children, do parents want to hear everything or just the big things? Like what is important for the teacher to tell the parents?
So I thought it was a genius idea. I was patting myself on the back all Friday. A parent called me up about parent-teacher conference.
There's a processing what you just said.
Yeah. Why?
I love you.
No, I was really impressed with myself at that moment. Anyway, a parent asked me a question, and I realized something that I should have realized really a long time ago. Parent-teacher conferences are 10 minutes of people anxiously waiting for the next person to come in. I said to the parent, why don't you email the teacher in advance of parent-teacher conferences and say, I really want to talk about the following things, and set the tone for the conversation.
And let the teacher
And then let the teacher prepare with what you want to hear.
That's so great.
You're not worried about her academics. You're not worried, but you're worried about how is she getting along with other friends? Does she come to class happy? How can I help her? And that gives the teacher a heads up and notes from which to follow. Otherwise, it becomes more like a show and tell. Here's the folder with all her
so
work.
That's
These
what the teacher
is
asking. Like, what is important for the teacher to tell the parents? The big things, or can the teacher tell the parent something very exact?
So I think that there's not, as an administrator, I would say the following. If there's something big, you do not wait for parent-teacher conferences. This should have been done a long time ago before the parent sits down. Yeah. I absolutely encourage my teachers, every one of us, Rabbi Sadi and I both write emails to the teachers that you must reach out to the parent so it's not a shock. You don't tell the parent, we do the report
your
cards
child
after.
Hasn't done homework all year.
That is an ongoing communication. And what then happens is that the parent-teacher conference is an opportunity to catch up. You know, since we had that communication, she's done so much better. Since we spoke, he's on task. Maybe a little bit more of this or that would help. Right. You do not use parent-teacher conferences as the opportunity to blow up the whole thing. Because then what happens is that long line of parents waiting outside your door will become longer as the parent, rightfully so, says, and you waited till now to tell me that? I could have done this, I could have done that, and the parent is 100% within their rights. And yet on the parent's side, if the parent sees that the child comes home unprepared, doesn't have all their books, doesn't have what they need, doesn't sit down quickly to do the homework, you reach out to the teacher, not the principal. And you say, now if the teacher does not communicate or doesn't give you an answer you're comfortable with, then you can say to the teacher, I don't feel like we're getting anywhere. Is there anyone else who can help me? Then the teacher will usually recommend a guidance counselor, a resource room person. Use the teacher as your guide because the teacher is the one who knows your child best.
Okay, I like that. How do we advocate for our children while keeping a good relationship with the teacher?
Advocate what?
So it's a general question. I'm not sure.
That kind of generalized question needs more information because it depends on what. If the child comes home and says kids are picking on me or the teacher's picking on me or I'm unhappy.
I mean, basically any situation you have, you said you need to approach it as a partner with the teacher.
Collaborative. Everything has to be in a collaborative way and always with respect. Even if the teacher says something that makes your hair fall out, which can happen.
Right.
That teacher may not have all the information. You may not have all the information. You have to investigate together.
Okay, so as a teacher, this is a teacher writing, how should we effectively communicate with the parents? So let's say the teacher needs to approach the parents about, let's say, a suspected problem or an uncomfortable situation, or even just that your child has never done their homework. We're 2 months into school, and we've had homework every day, and they've only done it twice. But sometimes it does.
But it shouldn't. The teacher after a month of no homework.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but sometimes it does. Sometimes the teacher gives it 2 months. I don't know. How long should the teacher give it? What if it did happen?
It depends.
Should the teacher not say anything because she's afraid that the parent is going to react like that?
It depends on what the model is. Danielle, we have to be very careful.
2 months
You have
is a
many
quarter of the
different,
year.
but you have very many different
No, it's
listeners.
not.
Almost.
The year's 10 months long. I'm not good at math, but come on.
Yeah, but,
Right,
but
but
2
10
months is a
months
long
and there's a lot
time.
of
Mom is right.
vacations
2 months
in
is a
between.
long time.
I'm
Yeah.
in 2 months, September and October.
It's a long time.
But there's no school half that month.
It doesn't matter. A pattern is established
Fine,
from
so
the
a
beginning.
month. We're a month into school, your child has not done homework once.
Okay, but then you have to know from the beginning, what was the teacher's policy? Did you go to open school night? Did you listen if there was going to be homework every night? Do you check parent locker every night? Do you check whatever? See, it's very unfair of me to make assumptions like that because not all schools have vehicles
Right.
for communication
I don't
that
have
are
any
the same.
vehicles like that.
So then you have to establish a vehicle with your teacher.
No, I'm saying if my child for the first month wasn't doing homework, I would have no idea. I mean, I check and I ask and I go through, but let's say let's say like that first grade, right? Let's say I didn't find the shins. And I thought, okay, it's the first month of school, the first grade. The teacher,
like Hanukkah.
right?
Let's find the
No,
shins.
let's say like the teacher is not giving homework because it's the first month of school.
Then you write an email to the teacher. First of all, you probably first go to all the other mothers in the class and you say,
Right.
what's going on here? Has that happened to you?
homework? Is there
Right.
homework?
I think parents
But the teacher wants to approach the parent. That's what this person is asking. How can a teacher approach a parent about a problem?
you just call up. It depends on what you use. Phones, email, depends on what vehicle you use. I prefer phone. Most people today prefer email. I think
I
a
actually
parent,
prefer phone also.
but
I like to hear a
sometimes-
person's tone
right,
of voice.
Right, but sometimes it's just easier to do an email.
That's true.
And it depends on how many students you have and how much time it takes. But let's say you're having a conversation. My suggestion would be that if you have any concern, it could be about homework. It could be about the fact that the kid comes home with their lunch and their knapsack every day. Is my kid eating lunch? It could be from the fact that the kid comes home crying that someone stole my apples. Somebody has better snacks than me. It could be anything at all. And that could be making a kid have a bad day.
Right.
If your kid comes home unhappy from school, it is your prerogative and it is your responsibility to find out why.
But also, so the education doesn't stop in school,
No.
right? Like parents. So a few questions I got that I didn't want to ask because it's really not up to any of us to make these decisions. I don't know who decides these things. Was I pay X amount of dollars to send my child to school? Why am I doing homework? Why am I doing X, Y, Z? Why am I helping with book reports? Why am I doing this? Because the reality is,
I didn't do it, and I paid plenty for school.
But
You know what?
But that's the exact opposite of what I'm saying. They want to know why they are.
But they're
paying and they are helping.
But you go to the teachers and you have
But
a
you know what?
discussion.
Why? You know what? This
I didn't
sounds.
help any of you.
To be very
Yeah.
honest, and I don't know if it's such a good idea always to be honest, but let me just say this: helping your child is a privilege.
I'm with you.
Doing for your child is
with
not. So if your child, what most educators recommend is that you do a central location where everybody sits around together doing homework. I am not in favor of everybody going up to your own
Right,
room.
neither
When the
am
kids
I.
are older in high school and stuff, it's a whole different ballgame. I'm assuming that a lot of these parents who are asking these questions have little kids.
We sit at the table in my salon. Everybody does their homework at the same
And
time.
that's the way it should be. And an older sibling can help a younger sibling. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's not about doing, it's about helping.
So actually, I have a hard time when the older siblings help the younger siblings. I find that they end up doing the work
Well,
as opposed to helping.
well, we have that too.
Yeah,
but
so I can allow it to an extent when we're rushed or something like that because I know it's like then I'm not doing the homework for them, someone else is. But I try really not to abuse that because I feel like they have to do their homework.
But don't you see,
But they learn
doing
it while
homework,
someone's doing it.
right?
They're
Doing
going through the
right.
steps. So
But if a school is doing its job, the homework is not new learning, it's reinforcing.
Right.
And the child already knows it. So most of the time, if a kid gets 5 problems to do, it shouldn't take them long because they've already learned it. If it takes them long, then they haven't learned it, then it's time for the parent to write a
So
note.
actually I don't have this with my kids because Baruch Hashem, girls come home at 2:00 in Israel every day, woohoo. But in America, I could see it with my boys potentially that come home at 5:30. I can't imagine them sitting down to do homework after being in school till 5:30. They're just fatigued. Their brains are fatigued. Their eyes are fatigued. It's
true.
It's like sensory overload. So a homework that should take 20 minutes may end up taking an hour and a half because they're just they're not in it, they're like.
But we tell the parents again and again, if you do it, don't work or labor for more than 15 minutes. Don't. But in high school, it's very different. The demands are extraordinary, and sometimes they need to do it. Like hours. If Bob teaches literature, and those kids have to read the book. So if they're reading the book while they're in class, what is he teaching?
Right.
So you can't, they have to read the book. They just, there's no getting around it. There's no way
around it, yeah.
The same thing is true for math. You go, the teacher teaches the concepts, but the only way they'll really understand is if they practice. So they have to do that. The same thing is true for social studies. You can't read, absorb, and do at all at the same time. In elementary school, it's not the same. In elementary school, they have to learn it, practice a little, and then they can play.
Okay, so these few questions I think go together, but I feel like the answer, how do you deal with a child that is very impulsive and gets into trouble because of it? How to help the perfectionist child not be such a perfectionist in school? So there was a bunch of questions like that, different. But I think those are things that need to be worked on by the parent in conjunction with the teacher, but also with a third party, right? Like if your child has impulse control difficulties, then that's something that either you need to go speak to a specialist about, or you need to speak to the teacher or speak to somebody who can help guide you, or your pediatrician that can help. Like if it's causing, if it's at the point where he's getting in trouble in school, which means he's probably disruptive, right? Because of his impulse control, there are people who you can speak to who can help you deal with that. It's not necessarily the teacher's job to fix these problems, right?
So that's a very good question. I call it quality time with me.
Okay.
So I have a lot of quality time with students, and it's not to punish them, it's to give them a timeout. So children with impulse control are dealt with you understand that it's not something that you're going to say, okay, I understand why you did it, but what happened? Right. I usually, when a child comes to me, I usually say to them, what is it that you did that got you here? And most often they'll say, I did nothing. Because it's so natural to them to do what they've done.
They're not trying to be chutzpah.
No, and I'm going to say, but I know it was probably something. Let's reevaluate what happened. And through a nice, casual kind of conversation, we'll figure that out. I'll usually do that for, the first time, the second time, the third time, even the fifth time. By the sixth time, I'll usually say to the child, look, we have to get mom involved in this. I try to have that kind of relationship with the child so that he and I or she and I can figure it out together. We figure it out together, and then I'll go back to the teacher and I'll say, look, this is what happened. Let's see how we can figure this out better. And most of the time, almost all the time, the teacher will say, okay, are you feeling better? Let's see what we can do. But there are times where it's adkan, and it's happened enough times so that the entire school is disrupted. Classroom is disrupted. I remember Rabbi Eliach, who was the dean and still continues to be a very wonderful contributor to education in his 90s, of Flatbush Yeshiva, and he said to me, Barbara, this is the most important lesson I'm going to give you. A child that disrupts himself, you work with. A child that disrupts everybody else, you have to figure out.
Right.
So then I usually will call the parent and say, we need to figure something out for your child. What are the best ways that we can help him? So it might be that they have to go and figure out something that will help the child through therapy, through medication if it's necessary, whatever the case may be. But we devise a plan. And through that plan, we ask the teachers to be patient. We're working on helping this child. If the child needs more, then let's come up with a protocol. There's a plan in place. It's not throw them out of class every single day. It's not that. We don't do that anymore. At least we try not to. And if we reach a point where that child's behavior is hurting the learning of other children or hurting the feelings of other children, then we have to segregate it out and deal with it. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer.
Right. Okay. I think that's I think we really covered a lot here, right? I know. Okay, so the other question that a lot of parents and educators brought up, but from different perspectives, and I guess this will be our last question, was just the discrepancy sometimes between a school and a home in terms of a few people asked about hashkafa, a few people asked about values, a few people asked about just the type of things being taught or the the way in which it's being taught. Like, what do you do when your home's values, whether they're religious, secular, whatever, are different than the school? Does the parent need to reinforce the school's values? To what extent? How does that work?
That's very complicated.
It is very complicated. We have very, very intelligent community here at Peas Loving Carrots.
Okay.
Well, why can't these teachers at this point in life, in today's world, learn and teach the kids tolerance and acceptance and okay, his hashkafa is bedatz and yours is, give me another one, mahadrin or something, What? No,
it's not. No, you see, no, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately, because first of all, not everybody is the same.
Right. It's not kid to kid. It's home to school.
Right. So everybody's home might be different.
Right.
But one of the things is that school is a melting pot. So in school, you have to follow school rules. If the school says you have to wear tzitzis every day, then you wear tzitzis every day. If the school says you have to wear a certain length skirt, whatever, that's the school rules. A parent's responsibility up front is to pick a school that most matches their needs. But that doesn't mean their home life is necessarily consistent with someone. Right.
100%.
But then this is the problem. What if your child invites another child home for a Shabbos? What if they want to go out for dinner? I remember my son, who's in his 40s, late 40s, and who came home one day and said, "Mommy, we had the best food at so-and-so's barbecue." After the barbecue, they served us Haagen-Dazs. Now, we're talking 30, maybe even a long time ago. And I said, Haagen-Dazs? There's no par of Haagen-Dazs. Anyway, that was the last time he went there. But this is a kid that went to the Young Israel or whatever, did all the things.
Right.
What was I supposed to do? We checked it out. We make certain assumptions that if you go to the school, it's going to be the same. I think that what needs to happen in cases like that, I think, Nicole, you're 100% right. There has to be tolerance and understanding. Right. But when it involves my child and what my child needs to do outside and for play dates or for those kinds of things, then you have to call the school, and the school is more than happy to give you
what about
guidance.
Back to tzitzis? What if the school rule is you have to wear tzitzis every day? Does a parent need to say on the weekends, listen, you go to a school where you have to wear tzitzis every day, you have to wear tzitzis? Because that's the school we go to?
Okay, this is an opinion, strictly an opinion.
Of course.
I believe, yes. I believe that to give children too many choices is not healthy.
So we should be consistent.
You need to be consistent. If there is, you make a choice when you send your child to the school that this is what you want to be reflected in your child and in who they're going to be. Right. And you also make choices about who you want their friends to be and what families you want them to be with and what you think is important for them. Otherwise, pick a different school.
When Danielle started school, we weren't Shom Shabbos, and we met with the principal. And the principal said, of course, absolutely, you can bring your children here, and we will help you. And anytime, of course, in the beginning, K was kosher to me, so I sent snacks with the K. But you know what? The principal was so unbelievable. Mrs. Gleitman, don't worry. The snack you sent is not, is not the hashkaf of the kashrut of the school. But don't worry, I traded with him. And I gave him a different snack. And you know what? Within not even a year or something, we became Shom Shabbos because it was such a warm environment and we wanted it for our kids.
I think, you know what? To me, the most important thing is luck.
Right.
You got to be lucky. You got to be lucky with who your parents are. You have to be lucky with who your friends are. But you have to be vigilant. You have to, if you see something, you have to say something. And you said that thing before about the predators and things like that.
But you don't have to do harsh punishment.
But you have to put your hands in people that you trust. Right. And oftentimes you make decisions, and then afterwards you second guess people that you should.
Elisheva's waving to you all.
Elisheva's so pretty. Yes, you are.
Hi, Grandma.
And I think that that's the most important thing. And one of the and the next thing is that there are communities now to help you and to reach out.
Right.
You know, I think, Danielle, you do a phenomenal job of laying yourself honestly and openly to your followers, and they trust you. So that's an important part.
Thank
to be
you.
real.
I think this was really informative. I think for me personally, I learned like a few things. First of all, that I really need to not be afraid of the teachers, but really look at the teacher as a partner. We're in this together, and just to really right away off the bat, give the teacher the benefit of the doubt that we're both in this for the best interest of the child. And I think even this is something that we spoke about last time, but I think what parents and people in general can always remember, like, you know, everybody's providing a service, right? I provide a service, you provide a service, you provide a service. Teachers are also service providers. And it's really important to treat them respectfully with a smile. You know, start out conversations with a nice comment. Even if the conversation is not the most pleasant conversation you could be having, or you're going in to share a concern or something like that, it's always nice to, you know, start with something that you like or you appreciate or something that you notice or value in the teacher. And unfortunately, I think the reality is that there are times where you just get stuck with a difficult dynamic. The teacher and the child don't mesh. The teacher's having a bad year. You know, teachers are also people. We had one year where our teacher, unfortunately, was going through a very, very sad. His wife was very, very ill. And this was a long time ago. And you know what? It was a terrible year for the kids. But also, this teacher was going through a terrible time. And
yeah, but Danielle, you want to know something? This is really, it's a harsh thing what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But when you work with children, they're not cans of tuna.
Right. No, they're not.
And you have to, and you can't just move them around on the shelf. And we know that children are very sensitive. I know, I have a broken arm now.
Right.
And they come in every day. A whole bunch of them. Are you okay? Is it a little bit better? Your fingers don't look so swollen. What can I do? Can I help? They open doors for me. They open jars for me. Nice. And you know what? It's so warming that they're taught such great meatos at home, and it's reinforced in school. But if a teacher's having a bad day, I will encourage that teacher to stay home. You know why? Because you can't leak it on the kids. They're very, very precious, and something that you say, you don't even know. It could be a word. It could be an eye roll. It could be the simplest thing.
Can break them.
Could be very impactful on them, and you need to be careful. So while you're very wonderful and caring and understood that this teacher was going through a hard time, sometimes you just have to say, I'm going through a hard time, but, let me put it aside. And if you can't, then
I don't think he could, and I don't think the school was going to do anything about it.
So that's a problem.
It is a problem. So what was my option? My option was to be honest with my child and to every day say, I'm sorry that this happened, and I'm sorry that you had a bad day, and it's not your fault.
Fair.
And I love you, and you're amazing, and I had to take it upon myself to do the job of making sure that he was loved and that his confidence wasn't getting, hurt in any way. But
and that's why I volunteered in school all the time.
Sometimes there are just dynamics, like as parents, I think the hardest thing is that we want to fix everything. We want everything to be perfect. And the hardest thing to come to terms with as a parent is that we can't fix or save, or we can't do it. We can't always do it. We do it the best we can. And sometimes when you can't fix, you need to sit by them and, hold the pieces together. You can't glue them together, but you can hold them together.
But the parents have to know that you can't fix everything, that not everything comes out okay.
No.
I think the two things that you have to have for a child, and I'm thinking about now, two things that are important. One is love, unconditional love, and the other one is show up.
Show up. I like that. Show up mentally, show up physically, show up emotionally, be fully present. I love that line. You give 100% of yourself 100% of the time you can. Like, nobody can give anybody 100% of themselves. But when you can give of yourself, give it 100%.
So have family meals when you can. It doesn't have to be all the time.
But be present at that meal.
But be present, not on your phone.
Right.
That's my big...
When you're sitting there doing homework with your child, don't be doing a billion things. Take the 10 minutes, be there, do the homework, and then walk away. And if you can't do it more than 10 minutes, that's okay. But the 10 minutes you can, just be there.
And homework should not be such a big thing. And if it is a big thing, then work with your professional or any of the people that work with your children to figure out how to make it less of an issue. You're right.
I think parents need more confidence to be able to approach the teacher, not in a harsh way, but as a partner. Like, the educator does know what they're doing, but you also know what they're doing because you're the parent, you hope, right? Well, we hope all around.
Right.
But everybody just needs to be more confident in that you're doing what you can to help your child be the best person they can be. And hopefully, with a lot of tefillah and Mashiach.
And sometimes you need to go to outside resources,
yes.
and there are, and I work with, I told Danielle, I work with Dr. Evelyn Gross, who is a phenomenal educator also. She's a principal at Shalamis, another school locally. And we have an organization, well, I guess it's a business, it's called Park Bench Associates. And it's for just talking casually about things that we're happy to help people who need that additional help. And as lifelong educators, which we both are.
How can people reach you?
Well, we have an email, parkbench@gmail.
Parkbench@gmail.com.
Parkbenchassociates@gmail.com.
Parkbenchassociates@gmail.com.
And an Instagram, parkbenchassociates.
Oh, I'm going to tag you. Okay.
Okay.
And then they reach out and you help them navigate the education.
Right, whatever they need. We do that. Wow. And we've been doing it for a while. And it's fun.
That's great.
It's fun to be able to help people. And most important, if your kid says they want to be a teacher, then say okay.
They can be whatever they want.
I know, but we are one of the problems we're having today, and Rabbi Sadi is working on a special project for this, especially. He's the head of school at the West Hempstead campuses of Hank, to find a way to encourage young women to go into teaching.
Well, Leah Baylor wants to be a teacher.
Leah Baylor would be an awesome teacher.
She wants to be. She loves teachers. She loves teaching. They don't play mommy in my house. They play teacher. And she sets everybody up. It's the cutest thing ever.
I used to do that.
Did you really?
Yes, my mother had a big mirror, and I used to stand in her Persian lamb hat.
That is so
wearing it and talking to the mirror and teaching students. I was a wonderful teacher in those days. All my dolls, they learned so well.
They fit so nicely. Nobody disrupted.
It's a real testament to me and all that I did that my kids are not teachers.
It's so funny because I really think your littlest instincts are, they kind of stick with you for life, because I did not teach dolls, but I stood in front of the mirror pretending to sell shampoo bottles. I'm serious. I would mix the shampoo and the conditioner, like the pearly shampoo. I said, and look at how that pearly shampoo swirls into the conditioner. Just keep swirling it up until it's all. There you go. You got it.
She was Instagramming with the mirror before she.
Because I woke up. I was always an early riser, and my father would turn on infomercials. And I watched infomercials, and I loved them. And then he started, it's all his fault, because he bought me a Adhd. I watched that infomercial for 2 years straight, every day. Well, probably not 2 years. It was probably a month. Who knows? But I wanted the Adhd, and then he bought me the Adhd. And then that's it. I was hooked. Infomercials, cooking shows, anything where people were talking and teaching you how to make things. I loved it. And
that's
now,
a wacko.
I know. And now this is what I do. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but what you do is on a grand scale. It's not something that we understand at all, to be honest, because this is a whole new world, Lo.
It's a whole new world. A whole new world. All right, everybody. I want to thank Barbara for coming out here tonight on a Motzei Shabbos. It is
in
not
my
easy to
pajamas.
open that for you. In your pajamas. Well, Mimi's in her pajamas also, so it's a good match. And we're going to have to do it again because there were a lot of questions we did not get up to. But it's such a heated topic. And really, I'll give you a little sneak peek for next season. People really want to talk about, if they choose to leave the yeshiva system, if that's a possibility, or how to make the yeshiva system work for them financially, things like that.
So I have a lot of thoughts about that. I think the number one thing that everyone has to do, and I'll leave you with that,
sneak peek, folks,
is do what's best for your child. And make sure you do what your child needs, because in the end, that's what we're accountable for. You have to make each kid be able to be independent. And if that child does not have the ability to be independent, then they're handicapped. And we don't want that for any of our children.
No, chas v'shalom. I'll tell you my thoughts. Daven for Mashiach, and we won't have to deal with any of this. Okay, woo! I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. Barbara, you're amazing. Thank you for being here.
I love you all.
Mom, co-host number one. Even though,
and Mom,
I love Ellie. Let's understand that, okay? Nobody loves
number
Ellie.
Number one, Mom, tied for gold medal co-host. How about that?
Tied?
With Ellie. You just, so what, no, not tied?
It has nothing to do with how much I love him. What are the ratings?
You're literally playing both sides. 2 seconds ago, you said, I said best co-host, and you said, no, you love Ellie. So I said tied.
Co-host. I am your co-host.
Right.
We don't need 2 co-hosts.
So I said, oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you everyone for being here. As always, thank you for listening. I love you. I just want you all to know this is the second to last podcast of season 2, Peas in a Podcast. Episode 7, season 2 will come out when Mimic comes to Israel to record it with us.
Well, we're going to figure out how to do it.
No, we're not. No, we're not. You need to work that out. No, we're not. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. And I hope that you all have a lot of success and bracha in all of your endeavors, educationally, physically, spiritually, psychologically, everything you need. Love, love, love to everybody. Shavua Tov, Umazel Tov. This is Peas in a Podcast. I'm Danielle from Peas, Love, and Carrots, and thank you for being here. Have a good week, everyone. Bye.